If you are male presenting and you are on a dating app, at this very moment, your name and picture may be distributed amongst millions of women in your area, alongside screenshots of your private conversations and personal details via any of a number of private Facebook groups. Your dating history, your marriage status, every awkward conversation or misdeed are being aired out in the comments section under the photo you chose to best represent yourself on Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and Raya. And you know what? Maybe they fucking should be. Hey, I'm Hoots. This is my channel, and today I want to talk about digital whisper networks. This video is censored for YouTube. The unlisted, uncensored version is available to my patrons at every tier level, including free tier on Patreon. If you'd prefer the uncensored version, just head to patreon.com/littlehoot and sign up today. A whisper network, whether digital or analog, is typically defined as an informal chain of information or an unofficial chain of reporting pertaining to one or many serial harassers within a given community. You have a boss who likes to play grab ass in the stockroom. For whatever reason, you don't feel it's safe or necessary to report him to HR, so instead you just tell a few of your coworkers that Mr. Squeeze gave your cheeks a pinch in the stockroom, so that they know to avoid being alone with Mr. Squeeze in the stockroom. You have officially created a whisper network. In an article for the University of Chicago Legal Forum, Deborah Turkheimer categorizes unofficial channels of reporting like whisper networks along two key dimensions: whether the accuser is anonymous, and whether access to the channel is restricted or open. Using the handy chart Turkheimer created, we can see that original classic flavor whisper network, like the example I used with Mr. Squeeze in the stockroom, is when the accuser is named and access to the channel is restricted. A double secret whisper network is a channel with restricted access where an accuser is allowed to remain anonymous. Using our Mr. Squeeze example, this would be if one of your coworkers decided to create a Google spreadsheet and share the link with some trusted coworkers, so that anyone who got their cheeks pinched or had any other issues with Mr. Squeeze could report their allegations anonymously. The shadow court of public opinion, as Turkheimer calls it, is when the channel is open access and the accuser or accusers are anonymous. Someone at the company has decided to email our Google spreadsheet around to everyone in the company, including Mr. Squeeze and HR and the CEO, CFO, and a journalist with the HuffPost for good measure. The anonymous accusations can't be verified, but there sure seems to be a lot of people saying that this guy likes to pinch cheeks in the stockroom. And finally, what Turkheimer defines as the new court of public opinion: named accusers making public, open access accusations. A handful of your coworkers agree to go on the record about Mr. Squeeze in an article for HuffPost. Their courage inspires others within your company and even alleged victims that Mr. Squeeze encountered at other companies decades prior to come forward via social media. Very often, this is the point at which Mr. Squeeze could be expected to suffer some professional or legal consequences, what the internet refers to as being Me Too'd. The actual term whisper network really came into popularity in 2017 when the New York Times broke the story on the Harvey Weinstein scandal, finally publishing hard evidence of his decades of sexual abuse and misconduct at Miramax and the Weinstein Company and precipitating the Me Too movement. Though the term entered public parlance relatively recently, the concept of a whisper network is as old as society itself. A whisper network is essentially a specific category of gossip intended to protect a vulnerable population, usually women, from a predator, usually a man. I'm going to be talking a lot in gender binaries in this video, more on why that's a problem later. Gossip gets something of a bad rap. First of all, it's a woman thing, and we hate that. Secondly, isn't it kind of mean to gossip about other people? to spill tea. I'm sure that they would prefer that their tea remained in the cup. But on the other hand, it feels really good. Like scratching an ancestral itch good. Robin Dunbar of Dunbar's Number has suggested that gossip shares an evolutionary history with the social grooming of our primate ancestors. So gossip is good, actually. It's natural. I'm appealing to nature. Yell at me about it in the comments. Gossip facilitates an affinity between parties, strengthens social bonds, and in the case of whisper networks, gossip can function as a shield, a line of defense against harm. This is why Anne Helen Peterson speculates in an opinion piece for BuzzFeed that gossip has taken on such negative social connotations.
There are enough men like Weinstein and Ailes, young and old, liberal and conservative, ones who make us feel like objects or dirty and out of control in our workplace or classrooms, ones who can and will ruin our lives, that we've become dependent on unofficial modes of communication to protect ourselves. It's no wonder, then, that so many men deride and degrade gossip. It's our most effective armor against their abuses.
Whisper networks are not a mode of justice. Rather, to quote Sarah Jiang, whisper networks arise in a vacuum of justice. They alleviate an untenable condition. They do not actually address it. When women couldn't rely on society or institutions to deliver justice, they relied on speaking to one another. Tell the new girl in the office about the supervisor who gets a little too handsy. Tell the younger actress in the company never to take a meeting with the director alone. Tell your sorority sisters who slipped something in your drink. In the 1980s and 1990s, students at Brown resorted to writing the names of their rapists on bathroom stalls when the university ignored their reports. When the university painted over the lists on bathroom stalls, students copied them down, passed them around on pieces of paper, distributed them amongst their peers, and wrote them right back up on the bathroom stalls again. The very clever among you will already be recalling Deborah Turkheimer's handy chart. The Brown rape lists, as they were called, are an example of the shadow court of public opinion. Accusations were made anonymously, but the whole school, and eventually the whole country, had access to the names on those lists. The Brown rape lists gained so much notoriety that they became a topic of national interest. The alleged victims were invited on talk shows and interviewed by Phil Donahue and Oprah Winfrey, and eventually, the university came to the table with the victims and rewrote their sexual harassment policies. In 2015, the same year Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering released The Hunting Ground, an expose on campus sexual assault, the tech startup Callisto created an online database where college students who'd experienced sexual assault could enter details like social media handles into their matching system. The matching system then compares details from other anonymous reports in order to identify serial offenders in what Callisto describes as a secure alternative to a whisper network. 5 days after Megan Twohey and Jodi Kantor published their report on Harvey Weinstein in the New York Times, Ronan Farrow published the findings of his own Weinstein investigation in the New Yorker. Rumors of Weinstein's casting couch had persisted for decades, but the New York Times and New Yorker articles revealed that the term casting couch was really a way of laundering Weinstein's years-long pattern of abuse, coercion, and sexual assault. The Weinstein reporting came on the heels of Trump's Access Hollywood tape and Bill O'Reilly's ousting from Fox News following allegations of misconduct, and would prove to be a watershed moment in the public conversation around misconduct. Altogether, 80 women would end up coming forward with public accusations against Weinstein, and women around the globe and in every industry began discussing their experiences with personal and professional sexual misconduct under the hashtag #MeToo. But many more victims were afraid to publicly step forward and name their attackers, to engage in the new court of public opinion. It's one thing to tweet your own experience with a trending hashtag, it's another to publicly accuse someone by name. Some victims used anonymous workplace reporting apps like Blind to report incidents of sexual harassment and assault, but freelance workers had more limited means of reporting. Women started passing messages to one another via private DMs, Slack channels, and secret Facebook groups. Perhaps taking a leaf from the Brown Students Handbook, Moira Donegan created a Google spreadsheet called Shitty Media Men, designed for women in the publishing industry to anonymously report allegations of harassment and assault perpetrated by their male colleagues. The spreadsheet went viral before being quickly deleted, but not so quickly that it didn't result in a number of high-profile firings and resignations. The Whisper Network had fully entered the digital space. But before we dive into digital whisper networks, I gotta talk to you about today's sponsor, Ground News. A lot of the research for today's video has involved reporting either directly or indirectly on the Me Too movement. And as you can imagine, the reporting on Me Too, and sadly on cases of sexual misconduct and assault in general, varies widely depending on the political bias of the outlet reporting on it. In many ways, what constitutes rape is still a partisan issue. I hate it here. Luckily, Ground News is a website and app that allows me to sort through sensationalist articles and spot media bias. Let me show you how some of it works. We're here on the Ground News homepage. I can search for articles by name, or I can even follow general topics. Let's look at sexual harassment. If we go to the topic page, we'll see top articles in the sexual harassment category. On the right, you'll see how reporting on sexual harassment is broken down by media bias. The majority of the coverage is by center and left-leaning media sources. Under each headline, you'll get a media bias breakdown and the number of sources reporting on that story. If we scroll down and click on one, here's one that has 116 sources, and it looks like it has a small majority of left-wing sources. If we click on the topic, we can get a bias distribution map and some bias insights on how different news outlets are reporting on this judge threatening to boot Donald Trump from the courtroom during his civil defamation trial. And if we scroll down, Ground News links off to each article cited as a source, and you can sort them by left, center, or right sources using the Articles tabs. You can also see how factual the source is, as well as who owns the publication. You can access all of these features with the Vantage plan, which is the one I use.
Ground News has tons of features and they're fully unlocked with the Vantage plan. My link gets you 30% off and unlimited access to everything Ground News offers for about $5 a month. But plans can start at just $1 a month.
I use Ground News to see through media narratives and practice critical thinking, and that's how I can make informed decisions. Just a reminder that 2024 is an American election year, so we're gonna get all kinds of frustrating, biased reporting. Having a tool like Ground News will help you sort through the bullshit. Check out the link in my description, ground.news/hoots, to give yourself the right tools to be informed without being misinformed. Thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Whenever I discuss serious or controversial topics like this, my videos tend to get demonetized. So sponsors like Ground News and donations through channel subscriptions, Patreon patrons, and platforms like PayPal and Ko-fi allow me to continue making them without taking too much of a financial hit. But in addition to the loss in ad revenue, demonetized videos are deprioritized in YouTube's algorithm, which means YouTube won't push them as much and they get fewer views. So if you want to help me out without giving me any money, please share this video. Give it a like, leave a comment. I'd love it if videos about the intricacies and impacts of rape culture got about the same kind of views as videos about Harry Potter or Disney properties. Thanks. A little over a year ago, my friend added me to a private Facebook group called Are We Dating the Same Guy? As the name suggests, this group was initially designed for women to connect with their boyfriend's girlfriend and perhaps inform her about the open relationship she had unwittingly entered. A whisper network to oust cheaters. Are We Dating the Same Guy was originally a New York City-based operation, but expanded to include groups localized to most other major cities in North America and several in Europe and Oceania. And as the AWDTSG question mark, and as the Audska. And as the Same Guy chapters expanded, so too did the mission of the group. Far more than catching out philandering partners, Same Guy groups provide all kinds of support to women navigating the world of online dating. Nowadays, Are We Dating the Same Guy primarily serves as a mass, digital, traditional whisper network with a sort of double secret whisper network that reporters can opt into by making their posts anonymously or through a friend. The culture of these groups tends to be very pro-believing women and very pro-gossip, actively soliciting gossip and taking women's claims seriously being the sort of engine, the primary driving force of these groups. There is also a very strong culture of secrecy and exclusion. These social media groups are private, and to join them, you have to get approval from a group moderator. Getting approval from a mod usually means being a woman or having a female-presenting Facebook profile and agreeing to a list of rules, including no sharing screenshots. What happens in the group must stay in the group. So even though I've made sure to censor all of the screenshots I've taken for this video, I'm probably getting booted from the groups. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't actually use any of the dating apps anyway. I accept my punishment for trying to be a little gumshoe YouTuber. I was just having a bit of a Kaylin Conrad moment. This culture of in-group secrecy also plays into a culture of, at times, extreme hypervigilance that I'll get into later in the video. Over my year plus in some of the Southern California-based groups, I've identified 6 major categories of "Are we dating the same guy?" posts. 1. Outing cheaters. Are we dating the same guy? These are posts from women outing a confirmed cheater or seeking to confirm their suspicions about their current partner.
This is he likes to date multiple women at the same time. Please be cautious.
Was talking to this guy, sent me these live photos, and I heard girl calling him baby. Initials are LR. He's 32 in the San Fernando Valley. I hope his girlfriend is in here. You don't deserve that.
The makeup on the counter.
Is anyone talking to my husband? Or have they seen him on dating sites or social media?
How can I know if my boyfriend is on Tinder?
Log in with his phone number when you're with him, and if his phone beeps with a text, he has it.
Dang, genius.
Right? I never thought about it until right now. Crying laughing emoji.
If you put any number in, they'll get a text, whether they have it or not.
2. Seeking dating advice. Women both in relationships and playing the field seeking general dating advice.
Do guys like when women are persistent and show clear interest?
Need advice from any ladies who like to drink but have dated a sober man. Ladies with experience only. I have a first date this week with a really nice and funny guy whom I've been chatting with for about a week. We scheduled a date, and then he just told me that he is sober, but doesn't have a problem at all if I drink.
Need advice. How to avoid getting too invested early on?
I just had a really bad experience and I need some advice. I'm very shaken and hurt. I don't know what to think of this. Full story in the comments.
I'm hoping for some advice. I've been dating this wonderful man. He treats me great. He's so kind. The chemistry is next level. He's definitely a millionaire, but outright refuses to tell me what he does for a living, or his last name. How concerned should I be?
3. Warning about catfishing and scams. Posts warning women about which accounts are fake catfishing accounts, and this is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Which accounts are actually restaurant owners creating fake dating profiles, making date plans with women at their restaurants, and then banking on the women ordering food anyway when their date stands them up.
Y'all, not the restaurants out here scamming.
I met this guy on a dating app and he immediately asked me out on a date to a specific restaurant. He confirmed day of, I get to the restaurant and see that he's nowhere to be found. So I reach out, no response. I check the app and notice that he unmatched me. At that point I was a little confused and I was kind of pissed because I was already dressed and I got all the way there. And because I had put in so much effort, I thought I might as well just have a meal while I am in the building. And it wasn't until I got home and I was scrolling Facebook and I saw a very similar story from a girl at that same restaurant who also got stood up. She found out that there are restaurants now posing as people on dating apps just so you go to their business. And once you get stood up, they know that probably 9 times out of 10 you're going to buy something from them. And that just blew my mind.
So she had posted 2 screenshots in that video, and this is the first one. The person said, "Don't waste your time with this one, ladies. Talk about this guy by the name of Antonio," which we believe is a bot. You can pause to read it, but in a nutshell, he told her that he had to cancel the first time, and then the second time, he told her to go to this specific restaurant. She goes, he doesn't show up, so she stays and has dinner and a drink. And then that's when they went further down the rabbit hole to find out this restaurant actually had partnered up with some bot app to create fake bots on dating apps to lure women and probably men into the restaurants so that when they get stood up, there's a high likely chance that they're just going to stay and eat. Because why else were you going to dinner, right? But y'all, It's not new. It's actually a phenomenon. And it was first found out that it was occurring in India, or the Delhi area. And this guy by the name of Archit Gupta, and I hope I'm saying his name right, had posted this story time on Twitter literally just like a week ago. And basically said that he got stood up at this restaurant by this quote-unquote girl, which he believes is a bot, and he ended up paying like 15,000 rupees or whatever that converts to in US dollars. But yeah, he got stood up, and then he realized this is a bot. But there's a name for it. They're called food diggers. And it's restaurants that partner with bot apps, right? So the restaurants create these bots across all the dating sites, all of them, Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, and they create these fake, y'all, this is insane. Like, I knew restaurants had it down bad, right? When nobody was going to Cheesecake Factory, but this is something else. And you can pause to read this, but apparently it has been happening all over Reddit, all over Twitter. Like, now it's made its way here to TikTok. And if you go to r/India, the entire thread is a bunch of men and women being basically scammed by a bunch of food diggers across India. And now it's made its way to the US. Y'all be safe out there, because these restaurants are getting dirty.
It's so diabolical. I'm like, surely this can't actually be a thing, but I really hope it's real. I love a scam. I love a ploy. I love fraud. 4, venting and jokes about dating. Dating is hard, especially in the online dating era. Sometimes you just gotta vent, and sometimes you just gotta clown on it.
Merry Christmas! A reminder not to text your ex or old situationships, and a reply, lol. Happy holidays!
Why can't I just hate him?
I've been in a relationship with someone for 3 to 4 months. He gave me snacks and a drink from the gas station wrapped up for Christmas. Help!
Met this guy on Hinge, and he would ask for a selfie just to respond with 6 out of 10. And when I asked if he was serious, he wouldn't give me a straight answer, laughing my ass off, and then tried to continue talking to me after. Like, I'm sorry, even if you think I'm a 6 out of 10, if you're trying to pursue me, I better be a 10 out of 10 to you. He said it twice.
Have you ever farted on someone's during sex or while receiving oral? I almost did a couple nights ago. IDK how I'll cope if I farted into someone's face or worse, their mouth, since I like my salad tossed.
In 2024, let's start asking ourselves if we're the red flag.
5, T or red flag. In my opinion, this is the scummiest kind of same guy post. These posts are when you post a picture of someone you're talking to on a dating app and solicit tea or red flags, gossip or warnings about him. Sometimes it's accompanied with some context, like that something about him seems off, which I guess is okay, but more often than not, it's just a picture of a guy who swiped right on a dating app, and now his picture is being circulated next to the pictures of cheaters and actual sexual predators. Which brings me to the next category of post. The part you probably knew I was building toward. 6. Warning about SA, abuse, and violence. Predictably, this digital whisper network is used to warn women on dating apps away from men who have committed alleged acts of abuse and sexual violence against other women in the group.
Essayed my friend who tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. They had been seeing each other prior, but this was not even a grey area. Pure violation. When she described what happened, it was textbook. Black and white. Essay. She said no. He didn't listen and used force. Please, stay safe.
This man is dangerous. He financially abused me. He's blackmailed me with my own trauma that I've experienced from others by messaging me through fake Instagram accounts with usernames that would seem like they're from another person.
Posting anonymously for another member. Trigger warning. SA. Rape.
Works in real estate. Maybe married now? I think he lives on the west side. Serial rapist from an obscenely wealthy and litigious family. Drugged and assaulted me. At least 2 other confirmed assaults, likely many more. Was chased out of the NYC music community once enough women started speaking up.
We were texting, flirting back and forth, and then he offered to send me a video of him having sex with someone. I was like, no? And then he was like, oh, I forgot I can only be sexy on your terms. And I was like, that's right. And then he said, nope, and sent me the video. I tried to just play it off because I'd been drinking and I was so caught off guard. Please, no one judge my reaction. I've dealt with SA before, and I just truly did not know what to do.
This happened years ago, but he may visit again because he still has friends here in the US. He coerced me, even though I tried to leave and said I didn't want to do anything past making out. He then tried to follow me on social media after I deleted my dating app, so I blocked him.
Literally so gross. This was the first day we chatted, and everything was fine, and in the morning he wants to send me nasty shit. LOL, that's why I don't like passing out my number. Plus, he's a cop.
Hi. It was nice talking to you.
Nice chatting with you as well.
Good morning. Working today?
It's worth noting that embedded in the culture of these groups, there's also a strong anti-cop sentiment, but not necessarily in an ACAB way, as these groups aren't overtly political. But the association with law enforcement and domestic violence is so strong, and the negative anecdotes from former partners of cops are so numerous that a majority of women in these groups view being a cop as its own red flag. And I think that's neat.
Advice on dating cops? A bunch of Can anyone name a few to stay away from in that area?
I would be careful. Not all are bad, but the horror stories, including my personal one, is pretty real. Domestic violence, alcohol abuse.
Do you want us to name police officers who live there? This seems like it would endanger them.
Any first responder, stay away. Hours are crazy, and the divorce rate is high. Good luck.
As the daughter of an angel deputy sheriff, don't do it.
No cops for me.
I would not date a cop. They have a high rate of domestic violence, and if you are being abused, who do you report it to? His buddies on the force? There's no protection there. Not worth the risk.
No.
Narcissist for sure.
Waste of time.
Was raised by one. Don't do it.
Tragically, many of the posts detailing sexual assault are also from women asking the other women in the group if assault was in fact what they experienced.
Trigger warning. Possible SA?
Was this date rape? Details in comment.
One of the most difficult parts of being assaulted is actually coming to terms with the fact that it happened. It's not uncommon in the aftermath of sexual assault for your reality to feel sort of fractured. It's not uncommon to be in denial. And for all of my criticisms of social media groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy? And I have a lot of them, I've seen women help complete strangers to name what happened to them and begin the lengthy emotional and sometimes medical and legal processes of moving forward. And I really believe that there are probably some women who are still with us because when they felt like they couldn't talk to anyone in their personal lives, there was an entire semi-anonymous community of non-judgmental women to reach out to for advice. And I want to acknowledge that, while also drawing your attention to the fact that we are being failed. We are being failed by the institutions and official reporting channels put into place to help us. And we are being failed by the unofficial channels we've organized to defend ourselves. When the Shitty Media Men list was published in 2017, journalist and culture writer Jenna Wortham was a bit taken aback. They had not been made aware of the extent of sexual misconduct in their industry. Neither had the other 6 women of color they were with when news of the Shitty Media Men list broke.
Whisper networks, in which women share secret warnings via word of mouth, require women to tell others whom to avoid and whom to ignore. They are based on trust, and any social hierarchy is rife with the privilege of deciding who gets access to information. Perhaps we were perceived as outsiders, or maybe we weren't seen as vulnerable. We haven't been invited to the happy hours, or chats, or email threads where such information is presumably shared. The list was FTWT, for them, by them, meaning by white women about their experiences with the white men who made up a majority of the names on it. Despite my working in New York media for 10 years, it was my first whisper of any kind, a realization that felt almost as hurtful as reading the acts described on the list itself. As a young woman business reporter, no one told me about the New York investor known for luring women out to meals under the guise of work. I found out the hard way. I realized he was a habitual boundary crosser only after the New York Observer reported on him in 2010. Most recently, after I complained in my media chat room about a man who harassed a friend at a birthday party, everyone chimed in to say that he was a known creep. I was infuriated. That information never made its way to me. And worse, it was taken as a given. Was keeping that secret hidden worth the trauma it caused my friend? Even now, amid the torrent of reports of sexual misconduct, women of color are conspicuously absent. It's still not safe enough for many of us to name our abusers in public.
As unofficial reporting channels, whisper networks are defined by restricted access, not just by legal professors like Deborah Turkheimer. It's implied in both the word whisper and the word network. A whisper network is a chain of secrecy, largely maintained due to the very real personal, legal, and professional threats to the people who engage in them. Whose permitted access to a whisper network is usually restricted to someone a person already in the network knows and feels they can trust, which usually translates to close friends or colleagues that one would feel comfortable spending time with outside of the workplace. People engaging in a whisper network also tend to contain the spread of information by limiting their warnings only to people they view as potential targets for abuse. This tight control of access often translates to women of color and older women being left out of whisper networks, in part because of our socially ingrained biases that lead us to view young, white women as more vulnerable. It also translates to leaving men and more masculine-presenting women and non-binary people out of networks, as these groups are seen as less vulnerable than more feminine-presenting people. I think, logically, a lot of us know that even if a predator's type is 20-year-old blonde women, they're capable of being abusive and sexually aggressive to all kinds of different people. But when you've been sworn to secrecy because a victim doesn't want their rapist to know that they've told anyone else, you tend to triage a bit. Only warn the people you see as the most at risk and the least likely to expose the whisper network. And the thing with triage is, sometimes you're choosing who you're going to save and who you're going to let bleed out. And even when the message of a whisper network does reach someone, there's no guarantee that the message will be understood. In his thesis for the University of Kentucky, It's the Only Thing We Have, Whisper Networks Among Women Theater Actors, Richard Edward Carter found that a large portion of his interview subjects, women theater actors, tended to use a number of vague signifiers when passing on a whisper network's message, rather than getting bogged down with details.
The perpetuators of these networks assume that misconduct and abuse by men are so pervasive among the experiences of women that nearly any woman will be able to guess at the nature of a man's misconduct based on very few clues with an acceptable degree of accuracy. If these women worked in a field where unprofessional men were rare, whisper network messages would likely be longer and more detailed. But for most of the interview participants, little more than an eye roll and an arched eyebrow is needed to communicate that a man is the kind of man to be avoided. In the process of the message receiver filling in the story's gaps for herself, she may not get every or even many details exactly right in her imagination. However, the story is meant as a warning. The priority of the message sender is to raise awareness about the dangerous nature of a man, or to have the other woman avoid him. Her priority is not to share a full and accurate accounting of the man's misdeeds.
A full and accurate accounting of a man's misdeeds isn't necessary, but some accounting is. An eye roll or an arched eyebrow may not be enough to convince someone to stay clear. People have different definitions of what constitutes a bad man. Is he a womanizer? A cheater? Does he have a temper? Does he make the odd sexist remark, or is he physically dangerous? These are important things to know when you have to navigate a workplace with a person. God, especially in theater. Especially in musical theater. In that corner of the industry, there's a real dearth of straight men. So there's this whole subspecies of middlingly attractive, slutty, heterosexual theater guy that will try to sleep with at least one woman in every show that he books. This behavior, while common, is broadly seen as pretty distasteful, as it usually results in a bunch of broken hearts and hurt feelings, and it is absolutely the kind of behavior that garners a number of eye rolls and arched eyebrows from fellow cast members. But some female actors may not have a problem with a guy being, kind of a man slut, and may decide that actually she'd like to indulge in a fun little no-string showmance, which is why it's important to define what is a bad man. Do the arched brows and rolled eyes communicate that he's going to have a brief dalliance with you and perhaps another woman in the show? Or that he's going to try to take advantage of you after you've had too many opening night drinks? And if you were warned, even if you realize too late that the warning was insufficient, who will you turn to if something happens? The maintenance of a whisper network relies on the credibility of its participants, and engaging with a bad man after being warned can be a mark against your credibility. Digital channels of unofficial reporting like private Facebook groups seem to have somewhat addressed some of the issues with traditional analog whisper networks, like women of color and older women being excluded, because women opt into these groups themselves, and as long as you're female presenting and agree to the rules, your application to join is likely to get approved. However, these groups tend to be women only, which still excludes queer men and some non-binary people who might benefit from them. And knowing that a private Facebook group even exists still usually depends on knowing someone in one, or at least having read any of the opinion pieces written about them. But largely, these digital whisper networks still fall victim to the same pitfalls of analog networks, as well as a host of unique issues and complications. The process of submitting an application to one of these groups and getting approval is, as I said, very easy. It's security theater. These are, in effect, public forums that almost anyone with a basic level of social media literacy can access. In order to protect themselves against liability, most of these groups have a no doxing rule, which limits women to only posting a man's picture, first name, last initial, and city. If women want to exchange information about a subject that is more personal than that, they have to do so via direct messages. But the thing is, this hasn't protected women using digital whisper networks from being dragged to court. In January of 2024, Nico D'Ambrosio, a man called Clingy and Annoying in Are We the Same Guy groups on Facebook, filed a defamation suit against Meta, Facebook's parent company, and 27 women who participated in the groups and said mean things about D'Ambrosio. D'Ambrosio filed his suit in Chicago under a new anti-doxing statute introduced in the state of Illinois on January 1st. The case was ultimately dismissed on January 26th, around the same time that D'Ambrosio was being indicted for tax fraud, but this is not the only example of women being dragged to court over digital whisper networks. Stephen Elliott, an author anonymously accused of harassment, coercion, physical sexual violence, and rape in the Shitty Media Men list, filed a lawsuit against its creator, Moira Donegan, in 2018, citing damage to his life and career as a result of the accusations. He also sought damages from his anonymous accusers. From a New York Times article in 2018,
the suit suggests that Mr. Elliott would seek to locate anonymous contributors to the list through the IP addresses or email accounts that could identify them. Google's press team said that such information would be turned over if Mr. Elliott provided the company with a valid court order, or, alternatively, if he obtained it directly from Ms. Donegan.
Several of Elliott's accusers would in fact become Donegan's co-defendants in the trial, though the court referred to them as Jane Does. I want to highlight this fact because the illusion of anonymity is one of the most appealing things about these digital whisper networks. But it is just that, an illusion. And every post you make about an abusive man, whether under your own name or anonymously, can be traced back to you and provided as evidence of libel or defamation. Elliott's defamation suit was settled out of court with Donegan in 2023. Donegan has declined to comment on the settlement in several publications, but Elliott has claimed in interviews that Donegan paid him out a six-figure settlement. Retaliatory defamation suits have become increasingly common in the years following Me Too, and more recently in the aftermath of the Heard Depp libel cases, especially in areas without strong anti-slap laws. Take this into account before posting about an abuser in a digital network. Take extra steps to protect your anonymity. If you can avoid it, don't disclose personal details that could reveal your identity. Nothing the accused would recognize anyway. Turn on private browsing, use a VPN or whatever. It's not a watertight solution, and probably not any solution, but anything that makes it more difficult to track you down is probably better than nothing at all. And if worse comes to worst, and you find yourself in a defamation suit for outing a predator, contact a legal defense fund like those offered by the National Women's Law Center. Resources for women hit with retaliatory defamation suits are limited, but they do exist. I've spent more than a year in private Facebook groups dedicated to helping women safely navigate online dating. I'm not a poster, I've remained a lurker, maybe liked a couple of memes about Tinder, maybe left a comment offering condolences here and there, but other than that, I've just spent my time observing. And what I've observed hasn't felt healthy.
Someone invited me to Vegas next month. Need advice?
There's human traffickers out there. I'm just saying.
Major red flag. From kids, married and has a dating profile on Facebook and I don't know where else, have my friend follow the wife on Instagram and the wife still had pics of them together, but he doesn't have her posted and they don't follow each other. This guy has the audacity to take me out and be sexual and act like he's single. He began planning other dates and tricks with me. Y'all been warned.
Maybe reach out to the wife and ask before judging. My ex-husband and I separated almost 2 years ago. I haven't removed a single picture. We do not follow each other and we are both in relationships. I rarely post anything new on Facebook, so my boyfriend gets posted on my Snap and TikTok. Maybe he is telling the truth?
Been going out about a month and just saw him out with a girl. Claims just a friend, but now curious if he's playing the field.
I've been in a relationship with an incredible guy for about a month, but we've been dating since October. He hasn't introduced me to his friends or family, but he has met my mum, but refuses to meet anyone else in my family because he says it's too soon. We have only been together for a month, and he isn't trying to rush things. For some reason, I see it more as a red flag, like I'm a secret almost, or am I just being too sensitive?
You haven't even gotten to the end of the honeymoon phase and already causing problems. Pressure him and he will run, and for good reason.
T or red flag?
These open relationships are confusing.
Not necessarily sex, but hang out too. That's not what all guys only think about, LOL. And yes, safely.
What, you want to crochet? Want to play puzzles?
I would love to learn to crochet.
Laughing my fat ass off.
I like hiking.
Why don't you do that with your girlfriend or your wife?
Any tea?
What is the deal with making these long drawn-out posts describing garbage men and then refusing to name them, or at the very least give the initials? Just post them. The point is to warn each other.
Not sure if this is allowed, but can someone identify what restaurants this could be from? Could also be from somewhere in the Inland Empire or San Bernardino County. Trying to figure out what this man is up to. Any tea? Tea?
We vibed and he seemed great.
Any tea?
Red flag?
Tea or red
Any
flag?
tea?
Tea or red flag?
Tea or red flag?
Any tea?
So there's a little bit of an atmosphere of hypervigilance. Many of the women who frequent these groups are so afraid of getting hurt, physically or emotionally, that they act extremely suspicious and paranoid of even the most basic dating norms. No, it's not weird that he hasn't introduced you to his family after a month. Yes, it is okay to still be playing the field before you've had a conversation about exclusivity. No, the guy you've been seeing for a few months probably isn't planning to sex traffic you in Las Vegas. So many of the women in Are We Dating the Same Guy are so eager to catch out cheaters in particular that monogamous women will happily swipe right on someone who has polyamorous in his bio just to see if they can catch him out in a lie and post receipts to the group. And I don't know any of these women personally, but I'd be willing to lay down a lot of money, at least the equivalent of a Las Vegas sex trafficker's salary, to bet that they weren't like this before joining these Facebook groups. When you interact with a post on Facebook, Facebook's algorithm pushes similar content to you in your main feed. This means that when you join a private group or follow a public page and start liking posts on it, the algorithm will start serving you up more posts from that group and more posts similar to the posts you interacted with. If you interact with a few posts in an Are We Dating the Same Guy group, the influx of posts from that group to your homepage is noticeable. My homepage is absolutely ruined from the research for this video, but Facebook's algorithm doesn't just take into account if you're interacting with a bunch of posts from a particular group. It measures how you're engaging with certain posts, how long you're engaging with them, and what kind of posts tend to keep you on the platform. Perhaps posts with certain words in them, maybe in the form of trigger warnings, or posts soliciting a certain kind of comment. Tea, anyone? A couple years ago, my friend Kaylin Conrad released the first of a 3-part series on so-called gender-critical Facebook groups. They painstakingly detailed the way these private groups radicalize people and the efficiency with which they do so. With the help of Facebook's algorithm, casually transphobic people who were maybe just a little gender-critical curious were inundated with hateful posts about trans people. And as they found a sense of community, in-jokes, in-group lingo, people they could turn to when they couldn't turn to their real friends or family, they became increasingly fanatical adherents to an ideology of hatred and bigotry. Now, women engaging in digital whisper networks via Facebook groups like Are We Dating the Same Guy are not remotely similar to TERFs by orders of magnitude. I know gender criticals like to pretend that they're just trying to protect women like these same guy groups are, but they're not. They just think trans people are yucky and want to eliminate them, along with most other queer people. Go watch Kaylin's Gender Critical series for more on that. However, the same dynamics are at play in these groups, and if you interact with them long enough, your entire social media feed is absolutely flooded with posts of ghosters, cheaters, and abusers. And that's enough to drive anyone a little nuts. Paranoia and hypervigilance are a natural result of having your entire view of men warped by an unending stream of the absolute worst that Tinder has to offer. A social media diet like that fundamentally interferes with your ability to empathize and trust anyone on a dating app. It causes you to view every interaction as combative, potentially suspicious, to view an entire gender as the opposition. And that's not a healthy mindset to start a relationship in. That's not a healthy mindset to be single in. I want better for us. But there is no better. Our solutions are hurting us. Our solutions are unjust because they are not the solution. Whisper networks arise in a vacuum of justice. They alleviate an untenable condition. They do not actually address it. We are not fixing. We are not healing. We are not defending. We are packing dirty rags into an open wound and hoping we don't bleed out. A whisper network failed me last year. I had taken a new job out of town, replacing someone who had vacated their position. The woman I replaced had been very popular and beloved within the company. Everyone told me right away how funny and outgoing she'd been. I, on the other hand, was a bit more reserved, unsure of myself in a new environment where almost everyone already knew one another, had already fallen into a pattern with their coworkers, had already found their friend groups within the isolated little community of the company. When I first started the contract, I just felt so grateful. Here was this exciting, life-changing opportunity. 2023 was my year. And I still felt that way, but a month into the contract, I'd still not made any close friends. I was left out of a lot of group outings. I was far from home, and I was lonely. So when one of my coworkers asked if I'd like to join a few of them for video games one night after a company party, I could have cried. It feels so stupid and naive now, but I was just so starved for affection and friendship. I only found out after the events of that night that he was one of those guys with a bit of a reputation, and alleged incidents in which he'd sexually harassed several women in my company, and rumors of even more disturbing behavior with women in other companies didn't reach me until it was too late. Until I started telling other people what he did. Hearing other people's experiences after the fact was validating. I think as victims, as women, we tend to downplay or second-guess our own experiences of harassment, violence, coercion, assault. We replay the event in our minds, obsess over every detail, pass new judgment over every action, every word spoken. Did it really happen the way you remember it? Are you exaggerating? Are you sure? We deny our own experiences by bottling them up, by recontextualizing, by refusing to name the harm. The Whisper Network failed to protect me, but when I was invited in, the stories I was told helped me to confirm the truth I could not quite face. Eventually, I did report him. Another victim came forward with me, and together we went to higher-ups within the company with our stories and whatever evidence we could use to corroborate them, mostly screenshots of text messages. Our assailant was put on immediate leave, investigated, and eventually fired. I will likely never have to see him again. I am a Me Too success story. On paper, I had some kind of justice. The company even paid for my ongoing therapy sessions. I thought I was going to be okay, and then I just wasn't. I couldn't face it. I was having nightmares. I felt incredibly uncomfortable working with some of the same people that looked the other way while I was in crisis. Walking through my daily routine at work, I felt like the walls were closing in on me. At times, I felt almost paralyzed with rage and helplessness. I completed my contract with the company, and when I was offered a contract renewal for this year, I turned it down. All of that hope and gratitude I felt at the start had shriveled into bitterness and sadness and fear. I was so angry at the people who knew and didn't say anything, to say nothing of the couple of women who continued to support and defend him. At times I felt like I was angrier at them than I'd ever been at him. And this resentment also made me resent myself. At a certain point, I felt the only way to preserve my sanity was to cut my losses and walk away from a career opportunity. Even though I won, I came forward the way victims are supposed to come forward. I was brave. The higher-ups in the company took me seriously and believed me the way people with power are meant to take victims seriously and believe them. They were righteous. And yet, my story has the same ending as all of the women who quietly left the Weinstein Company after being forced to sign non-disclosure agreements, after being utterly failed, after being betrayed by the other people at that company who had the power to help them. In my case, people with power did everything right by me, and yet my outcome was the same. Another woman quietly resigns from her position after being violated by a man. Whisper networks will continue to exist in all configurations and formats. Whisper networks should continue to exist as long as there is an absence of justice. And by justice, I don't mean retribution. I mean a world that promotes justice, a world that doesn't loudly endorse the kind of behavior that causes us to whisper. We don't have to be perpetrators of serial rape in order to be stained with culpability. We don't even need to personally know someone who has committed a terrible deed to be part of these stories. We built the world in which predators swoop from one target to the next with total impunity, through our beliefs and words and jokes and songs and stories. Through the shared world in which people communicated who was allowed to be believed and what acts could be condoned. As the backlash to Me Too builds in the air, we are talking a lot about ambiguous cases, the accusations that go too far. But our language is still evolving. We are still learning what it means to treat each other as human beings. We are still adding new words to our lexicon in order to separate out the jumble of pain and trauma and discomfort and confusion we cannot yet fully articulate. I can't help but get the feeling that in 10 years' time, when we have those new words in hand, we will be deeply ashamed of some of the things we are saying now. I'm fine now. I mean, I'm getting there. I haven't seen a therapist since I left that job, and finding a new one is definitely on my to-do list. But, my mental state has improved a lot just from removing myself from an environment where I was triggered, in the classic PTSD sense of the word. I know I made the right decision for myself, but I still have a lot of passing moments of bitterness and sadness over a career opportunity that I feel was in some ways stolen from me. I had been harmed, and even though my attacker had seen some consequences, there was no accountability process. I would never be sure he wouldn't move on to some other company and do the same thing to someone else. There would be no apology. There would be no apology for eroding my self-esteem, my sense of security, for turning me into someone bitter and anxious and avoidant. There's so much talk about how the world's legal systems fail victims. That is why we protect ourselves with messy, imperfect networks of unofficial reporting. But the failure is coming before a single assault or sexist joke or infidelity has even taken place. Victims are being failed, and yes, even offenders are being failed by the social norms we continue to perpetuate. No one is born a racist. No one comes out of the womb automatically thinking less of the person it's attached to. We are trained. All of us are trained. We are the architects of our own destruction. We can become the architects of our own salvation, but the project is one that will take generations. We are already re-examining our relationships with consent. We are raising our children to understand and empathize with one another and set boundaries for themselves and express their need for personal space and bodily autonomy. We are rejecting harmful normative expressions of masculinity, dominance, impassiveness, violence. These are individual and incremental changes. I can't promise they will do much to disentangle us from a system 10,000 years in the making. But maybe they're a start. Maybe in another 10,000 years we'll have another kind of world. A world we've created through shouting, singing, cheering, moaning, laughing, screaming, and sighing. But throughout the cacophony of 1,000 revolutions, we will continue to whisper.